Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your Denver Startup Week co-founders, Ben Data, Eric Matisik, and Tammy Dorr.
Good morning, Denver. I am very excited to welcome you to the kickoff of our epic 5th annual Denver Startup Week. I'm Ben Data, the COO of Galvanize. This is the largest free entrepreneurial event of its kind in the country. Denver Startup Week is about putting a spotlight and focusing on everything that's entrepreneurial here in Denver. And since its launch, it's absolutely brought national attention to Denver and to this community right here, and helped to launch and grow startups over these last 5 years. I'd like to start off by how many people have been to a Denver Startup Week before? Stand up, please. Stand up. Awesome. How many have been to 3? If you've been to 3, stay standing. 4, stay standing. 5, stay standing. That's awesome. All you people right here, everybody who's been up that entire time, thank you, because you are what make Denver Startup Week what it is. So let's get this kicked off.
Welcome. I'm Eric Matisik, the Executive Director of Project Excite at the University of Denver, and I also serve as the Chief Innovation Officer for the state of Colorado. We're thrilled to be kicking this week off with all of you and couldn't be more excited in our 5th year of Denver Startup Week. This week will hold nearly 300 free events across the city over 5 days, and it spans 6 incredible tracks. Can we have our slide, please? Our track sponsors include Founder Track, Net Profit, Developer Track. Yes, let's give it up. As we talk about these sponsors, this is a 100% free event. It cannot happen without them, so we're going to cheer for everyone. Developer Track, sponsored by Hired. Growth Track, sponsored by Zayo. Product Track, sponsored by MapQuest. Design Track, sponsored by Accenture and Arrow. And last but not least, the Makers Track, sponsored by Colorado Lending Source. Thank you to our track sponsors. Over the course of the last 4 years, we've developed a very special partnership with Chase. And once again, we'll be hosting Basecamp, launched by Chase for Business at 16th and Arapahoe on the 16th Street Mall. It's open from 8 to 6 p.m., and you can get inspired with programs every hour, on the hour, gain feedback through our mentor activities, and business development and financial sessions throughout the week. And it's the best place in town to get social and refuel as you engage in Startup Week. No Startup Week experience is complete until you spend time at Basecamp. So thank you, Chase, and a huge round of applause for Chase for Business for supporting us to bringing our Basecamp to life once again.
So this week wouldn't be possible without a couple people. The organizing committee works all year long, and this incredible group of volunteers helps to make this happen. So would the members of the organizing committee please stand? Let's give them a round of applause. This week also won't be possible without our sponsors. So it's with my sincerest appreciation, I'd like to recognize our title sponsors, Downtown Denver Partnership, Chase for Business, and Comcast NBC Universal. Would those representing the title sponsors please stand to be recognized? Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm Tammy Dorr, President and CEO of the Downtown Denver Partnership. Welcome to Downtown Denver. We're so thrilled that you are all here again. We all, as founders, can't believe it's been 5 years, but here you are, and every year we're even more amazed by this culture of innovation and entrepreneurship that is both seated in our community but growing exponentially. Part of growing a great culture of innovation and entrepreneurship takes great leadership from your current business leaders. Thank you to the established companies that support Denver Startup Week and help us grow. But it also needs to be attributed to our political leaders. They do help set the stage and the direction from a policy standpoint in our community and really make sure that entrepreneurship is a part of our brand as a city. I'm very proud today to introduce you to our mayor, Michael Hancock, who is a true believer in creating a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in Denver. Please welcome Mayor Hancock.
Good morning. You all look good. Say, we look good. 1,000 strong in this room this morning. Must have been a lot of alarm clocks going off. Once again, give a hand to our visionaries and founders, Ben, Tammy, and Eric. We are here because of you. Thank you. So I missed last year because I was out of the country. And I tell you, of all the events I missed because of that. I regretted missing this one the most because of the energy and the excitement that you all bring into this room to start off Startup Week in Denver. And I got to tell you something, we started a tradition on that first time I showed up, and we got to renew it, and that is to take a selfie that we just tell the world that we're here. And so if you're on this end and this end, can you all run to the middle real quick? All right, make some noise. Put your hands up in the air. Thank you very much. Well, you all welcome City Councilman Wayne News. Say hi, Wayne. I am so glad to be here. I got to tell you, in 2011, shortly after taking office, I had a business roundtable discussion with a bunch of entrepreneurs and innovators at Battery 621. And Battery 621 in the house. And you might remember this conversation. They asked me a question, said, what's your vision for small business and startup in Denver, Colorado? And I said, I want us to become the startup and small business capital of the nation. I want us to become the Silicon Valley of innovators and entrepreneurialism. And that group very candidly said, Mr. Mayor, we are all ready to startup and small business capital of the nation right here in Denver, Colorado. We just need you to champion it. We need to put on the map to notify everybody in this country and throughout the world that we are the startup and small business capital of the nation. And so we together went to work. And people like Ben and Tammy and Eric with their creativity and innovation came together and said, what about doing Startup Week? And they started it. And we expect over 10,000 strong in Denver, Colorado this weekend. 10,000 innovators, 10,000 entrepreneurs will be in our great city. And so I simply wanted to come by and say thank you. Because what we know about Denver, if it's our vision to bring and to attract more Fortune 500 companies, we've got it wrong. Cities and states like Minneapolis and Minnesota get it. No one naturally says, let's move to Minneapolis, Minnesota. But they have more Fortune 500 companies than Denver. Why? Because they nurture and grow their startups and their small businesses. And they created an ecosystem that says, if you start here, we want you to stay here. To all of you innovators and entrepreneurs, thank you for taking the step. Enjoy this week. And I want you to know, on behalf of this city and this state, I know Governor Hickenlooper would say it as well, we want you to win and stay right here and help us to be the greatest Fortune 500 company, state, and city in the entire world. Enjoy your time, win, innovate, be a great entrepreneur, and let's get this party started. Thank you all.
Always. Thank you, Mayor Hancock, for all you do to make Denver a great place to grow a startup. This week is all about telling our story, and we need your help to do it. So please use your blog, social, everything you have at your disposal to help get Denver trending nationally. Part of that is telling the story of why is Denver great for startups? Why is Denver for startups? So right now, what I'd love for you to do is take out your phone, tweet, share on Facebook, share on Instagram why Denver is for startups, and let's get this week kicked off right.
We have a great story to tell. As Ben said, it's really important that you get it out there. This week is about several things. It's about giving you the opportunity to connect with other entrepreneurs and to learn from them, to help build our community, but it's also to make sure that the rest of the nation knows what's going on. That gives us opportunities to attract even more entrepreneurs, potential partners, collaborators, as well as investors, which I know some of you in the room would greatly value that. So put the word out. We have a great story to tell. At your seats today, you have our Center City Startup Report. So just take a moment, pick it up, hold it up. We're going to get a picture of everybody holding up these reports because we've got some really good news to share. In there, you will see, Larry's got the snapshot. All right. In there, you will see that look at all of that. We have over 4,500 Center City startup employees. That's 8% of our downtown workforce. 660 startup companies. We have 56 startups that in the last year alone have brought in $420 million. 5 of those I want to highlight that brought in the most: Galvanize, Go Spot Check, Well Talk, ProjectWise, and Ibotta. So kudos to them. Congratulations. But we don't just stop there. We're making national rankings across the board. Some of them are noted on that document. But we're first place for business and careers by Forbes. Third best place to launch a startup, according to 1776. Third best for technology jobs, according to Forbes. And the fourth best city for young entrepreneurs by NerdWallet. And finally, the fourth best city for all entrepreneurs by Investopedia. But fourth isn't good enough, so you have to tell the story, because next year, those rankings, we want them even higher. So to tell a little bit more context about some of these numbers, I'm going to turn it over to Eric.
Thank you, Tammy. Before we take one more step forward to add context to those numbers, I do want to say one more thank you. A huge thank you to the Downtown Denver Partnership and their board for all their work that they do to make this event happen. It's with their support and leadership that we were able to really grow at this scale, and we couldn't be more excited. So a big round of applause for them. Startup communities are about the stories that make them happen. When you think about in 2012, when Denver Startup Week was born, there was 9 core meetups in the city of Denver that were really energizing the startup community. Today, in 2016, we have over 100. And it's that community that's really allowed these great companies to accelerate. It's allowed our narrative to be told on a national scale, and it's allowed venture capitalists and entrepreneurs to flock to this city to invest in some of our best companies here in the state. To give you a little overview of the ones that we're most proud of, Galvanize, we helped launch, and when you say help launch, they launched in partnership in 2012 with Denver Startup Week. They opened their doors and helped us open up the community. When we think about Galvanize today, they just raised a $45 million round and put Colorado on the map, not only here in Denver, but in 9 other states, and a huge round to Galvanize. But the good news doesn't end there. Full Contact just raised a $25 million round. Havenly just raised a $14.3 million round. Go Spot Check, $16.5 million just last week. And we have great startups like Red Canary, Flow Hub, and Revelar who are setting our track here in the state. A huge round of applause to all those who make it happen. As these successes keep coming, they really showcase what's possible, and we can't wait for all of you in this room to add to the list. But before we do that, I'd love to welcome Chris Jensen from Chase to come to the stage. I don't want to steal his thunder, but he's about to award a large sum of money to organizations doing some amazing work to grow diversity in our ecosystem. Welcome, Chris, and a huge thank you to Chase for all the work you're doing in our community.
Good morning, Denver. It's great to see you all here this morning. I'm the region manager for Chase Commercial Banking in the great state of Colorado, and it's a real pleasure to be here. This marks our 5th year that Chase has partnered with Denver's entrepreneurs to sponsor Startup Week, and we're very, very excited to be here. From day one, our commitment to Startup Week has run deep. We're proud to be the bank for 100,000 small businesses in this state and 1.3 million consumer customers in Colorado. From day one, we focused on helping Denver's entrepreneurs thrive by helping them to connect, supporting them, and helping them to find mentors and resources. Our sponsorship at Chase is at Chase Base Camp, and we're thrilled to be the energy that's created in that area. Please make sure that you are able to get over to our headquarters and consider it your headquarters for the week. We're on the corner of 16th and Arapahoe. To celebrate our 5th year of Startup Week, we wanted to make a contribution that would resonate throughout Colorado long after this week is over. As part of J.P. Morgan Chase's philanthropic organization, we're thrilled to be able to announce 4 grants to local nonprofit organizations that provide resources vital to growing Colorado's diverse entrepreneurial ecosystem. Diversity and inclusion in our startup community creates a stronger and better entrepreneurial culture, and that helps us all to succeed. So now we'd like to announce the grants. Would each of the following of these organizations will receive $60,000 grant. That's almost $250,000 that we'll be giving out. These grants will fund programs that will help create and grow healthy and resilient women and minority-owned businesses. We'd like them to stand now. The grants will go to Acción, Gwen Bonilla from Acción, Mikasa, Monique Lovato, who is the CEO of Mikasa, The Commons, Tammy Dorr, and Sharon King, who oversees the Pathway to Entrepreneurship program. Let's give them all a big applause. We're so proud of all of them. The resources that they provide will continue to strengthen Colorado's position as a leader in innovation and growth, and I encourage everyone to tap them as a resource. You can learn more tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. at Base Camp during a panel discussion on diversity in startups. You won't want to miss the presentation. We hope you will all be there. On behalf of all the employees of J.P. Morgan Chase, have a great week, and don't forget, come over to Base Camp and hang out with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chase. As we've talked previously about the support of Chase in terms of Base Camp and Startup Week, it's important to really note that it's corporate pillars like this in our community that really help us build an entrepreneurial journey of support for anyone looking at starting or growing a company here. One great example is the Commons on Champa. How many in the room have been to the Commons on Champa? That's a lot. How many have not been to the Commons on Champa? See, you have no idea what you're missing. When our board of directors at the partnership was really looking at how do we create and support an environment that supports entrepreneurs in our community, we envisioned a place and a space where there would be opportunities to connect to community, get access to resources, and learn, and that would provide an accessible environment at no cost to the community at large, basically breaking down barriers to becoming an entrepreneur. We then partnered with Colorado Technology Association and the City and County of Denver to open the center at 1245 Champa. So if you have not been there, this is a great week to go and check it out. It's programmed all week long with curated events and activities, and then throughout the entire year. The Commons on Champa is basically Startup Week 365 days a year. So for those of you who haven't been there, please make it there. And for those that have been there, please keep using this incredible space. Now I'm going to turn it over to Eric to start kicking off our speaker series for this morning's breakfast.
The best part about Denver Startup Week is our opportunity to be inspired. Inspired by the leaders who have built great businesses, inspired by the entrepreneurs who are struggling, and inspired by those who are breaking through and really telling our story right here in Denver. This morning, I'm really excited to introduce our very first speaker, Eddie Kim. Eddie's the co-founder and CTO of Gusto, where he oversees engineering and software development. When he comes up on stage, I hope you can see his socks, because I think they have a policy in and around the company that every time I go to their awesome office, I get this beautiful pair of socks. Gusto's a great example of what's happening in San Francisco. They brought that with them. And they're recognizing what we have going on right here in downtown Denver as well. Gusto will have over 99 employees in Denver just by the end of the month, and they're located just across the street from Base Camp. Prior to co-founding Gusto, Eddie was CEO and co-founder of Pickwing, a Y Combinator startup, and a photo-sharing platform that was acquired in 2011. Please welcome to the stage, Eddie Kim.
Welcome to the new age, to the new age. Welcome to the new age, to the new age.
Hello, Denver Startup Week. So as was mentioned earlier, I am one of the co-founders and the CTO of Gusto. Gusto is headquartered in 2 locations, San Francisco and Denver. And what we do is we build payroll, benefits, and HR software for the modern small business. And as one of the co-founders, I sometimes get asked by people, when you started Gusto, 5 years ago, what was the inspirational moment that kind of kicked it all off? What was that one day, what did that one day look like when it all happened? And it kind of like asked this question as if, the clouds like opened up one day and the heavens shone through and light started streaming down, and I had this inspirational moment, and I had to immediately drop every single thing that I was doing at that one moment in time to start Gusto. And I think a lot of founders do come up with these kind of inspirational stories. Sometimes they get shared with a TechCrunch editor to try to get some article written. Sometimes they may get shared with an investor to try to raise some money, and sometimes you may pitch it to a future employee to try to get them to sign that offer letter. But I think these stories don't necessarily happen that way. It's actually a whole bunch of big and little things that happen over many, many, many years that lead someone to start a company. At least that's the way it started for us at Gusto. And so I want to come up here and share 3 of the things that I think over the past 20 years of my life that really kind of gave me the confidence and the mindset to start Gusto. But as I tell these stories, just remember that they're really just 3 of, I would say, literally hundreds of things that I think consciously or subconsciously led to the founding of this company. So I'm going to jump all the way back to around 1993. I was probably about 10 years old. And my parents had started a small business. And like a lot of family-run businesses in the U.S., mom or dad is kind of the face of the business, and the other spouse is, sometimes running the back office. And in my case, it was my dad who was the face of the business. My mom was doing the back office. So she was doing all of these things operationally that is needed, like payroll, billing, accounting, all these things that you need to have a business run smoothly. And back then, it was literally a room in the back of the office where all these things happened. And I was very familiar with it because after school every day, my mom would pick me up and take me to this back office where I would do my homework. And I kind of witnessed firsthand the struggle, the pain that my mom would go through as she was calculating payroll through hand, literally writing using pen and paper, checks, handing it to the employees, mailing tax payments to the government. I witnessed that kind of like that age, the pain that many small businesses go through. Now, at the tender age of 10, I can't come up here and honestly tell you that at that moment in time I was inspired to start a payroll company and drop out of school or whatever. But I think looking back, it is one of the things that I pointed to when we were thinking about this idea. One of the things that happened in my life that kind of contributed to, I think, the founding of Gusto. So I'm going to fast forward to the second event. Now this is around 2006. I had just graduated from college, and I started working for this company called Volkswagen. It was called the Electronics Research Lab, and it was actually my dream job. I got a chance to work on cars and technologies and put them together. I was mainly working on navigation systems, speech recognition systems for next generation Audis. And I joined this company because of the work that was pitched to me. It was a lot of fun and is one thing that I was passionate about, like cars and tech. Still passionate about those things today. But a few months into working at Volkswagen, I realized something, that work was not just work. I was actually having a lot of my life at work as well. And obviously, I had my life outside of work. I had just graduated, so I had a lot of friends from college I was still hanging out with. But I started developing relationships at my work, friendships. I even started dating someone around that time, and went through lots of ups and downs, and literally a lot of my life started happening in this first job that I had. And I had this realization that your life doesn't stop when you check into work, and your life doesn't go on resume again when you kind of clock out. Life happens both in work and outside of work. It happens everywhere. And this is kind of something that I took away as a really important life experience in my first job after college. And I think at Gusto, one of our missions is this. We want to create a world where work empowers a better life. And I think in some way or form, like my experience at Volkswagen led to kind of that vision that we have in the company. It's something that we care a ton about, and I think in some small way, my first job at Volkswagen contributed to that vision that we have at Gusto. So the third story I'm going to tell, we're going to fast forward to about 5 years ago. It was around the time that we actually founded the company. And my friends had actually bet me that I could not run a half marathon. And so, determined to prove them wrong, I registered for the San Francisco Half Marathon. It was kind of a dumb idea because I didn't really train for it, and I would not recommend that because I couldn't walk for 3 days after the race. But what happened was I actually just kind of randomly, totally serendipitously ran into an old friend of mine. His name is Josh. He's also one of my co-founders now and the CEO of the company. And him and I, we had kind of lost touch. We were in the same year, same major in college, and we were friends back then. But as happens with many college friends, you kind of lose touch over the years. But I literally ran into him at the starting line of the San Francisco Half Marathon, and we said hi to each other. We said, hey, let's grab coffee, let's catch up after the race. So 3 days later, after I had recovered, we grabbed coffee and started hanging out again and becoming friends. And one thing led to another. We were both cared about this problem that we had started talking about. We were kind of also in the same, I think, mindset, same life stage around that time. We had gone through similar experiences since college. And somehow we got together and decided, along with our third co-founder, Tomer, to start the company. And so these three things, again, are just kind of three things that happened over the course of literally 20 years that, looking back, I think led to the founding of Gusto. And there are many, many more things out there that I think contributed to the overall story of the founding. And some of them are really big, some of them are really small, some of them I'm really, really conscious about, and some of them I think are still embedded in my subconscious, and I still haven't realized in what way that played that part. But I think just because there was no lightning strike moment that inspired us, that we couldn't sleep all day, it happened on random Tuesday at 4:50 in the morning or something, because we didn't have something like that, doesn't mean that our passion or the commitment we have to the company is any less. And in fact, I think because it happened over so many years and so many things kind of contributed to the overall story of us founding this company, I think our conviction and our passion in starting Gusto is that much stronger. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Eddie. It's incredible to add a company like Gusto, whose philosophy is so well matched with what we have here in Denver and what we look for in work-life integration. I'm incredibly excited to introduce our next speaker. If you go back to the first Denver Startup Week, this wasn't even an idea yet, and in that short period of time, she and her co-founder have now grown it to a $13.3 million Series A led by Binary Capital and Foundry Group. They're absolutely exploding up in Rhino, taking down office space left and right. Lee Mayer is this co-founder and CEO of Havenly. She created this interior design startup to make decorating your home easier and more affordable for all of us. And she's also one of the few people who can probably drop more F-bombs than I can. So let's welcome Lee to the stage.
With that introduction, I guess I've got my work cut out for me. Hello! Hello! Yeah, everyone awake? Good, because I'm going to need some audience participation later. Oops, staying too close to something. I am Lee Mayer. I am the co-founder and CEO of Havenly. And my story, really on its face, is pretty simple. I moved here a couple years ago with my husband, who's over there. And about 2.5 years ago, we started Havenly to make decorating far easier and far more affordable for the rest of us. And really, we've been growing it ever since. So we've decorated, I think, thousands and thousands of rooms. We've raised millions of dollars in capital. We've built, I think, the most incredible team. And frankly, I've been privileged to be a part of it. But today, I'm going to diverge from the script a little. If you want to hear my full pitch, I'm sure it's on YouTube somewhere. Today, I'm going to try and tell you a little bit about our story that can't be found on the internet. I know, it's shocking. And really what it is I've been coming to Denver Startup Week for a couple of years. This is my third one. And over the course of the next 5 days or so, you're going to hear a lot of stories. Some of them are extraordinary. Some of them are really, really interesting. Some of them are really boring. And you'll hear a lot of advice. You'll hear advice on how to build a great product, on how to raise venture money. And you will leave on Friday, many of you will leave on Friday at least, feeling inspired. Inspired to become a better marketer, to start your own company, to be a better leader. And then if you're anything like me, in about 2 weeks, you'll have forgotten all of it. And so today, what I want to share with you is a couple of pieces of advice, or I guess life lessons, that have sort of stuck with me. That every day I wake up and I, at some point in the day, think of these two things. And so for the first thing, I'm going to, as referred to, I'm going to ask for a little bit of audience participation. Can everyone see these? Yeah? Okay. So you're going to see a screen, and it's got words on it. And so what I want you to do all together, let's all wake up a little, all together. I want you to read the words on the screen from left to right, from top to bottom, starting with blue. Can we all do that? So ready? Blue. Y'all can read. That's awesome. Nice work. All right, now we're going to try something different. So what I want you to do is ignore what the words say and just read the colors out. Now, I saw some of you not moving your lips, so at least pretend. Particularly use those of you in the front, or else I'm going to call you out. So let's start with red. So again, left to right, top to bottom, the colors that you see. So Was one harder than the other? Was one, because it sounded like one was harder than the other. Yeah. Does anyone have a 4-year-old at home? Anyone? Hands raised? 4-year-olds are really good at the second one. Really, really good at the second one. And there's something funny that happens with kids, right? They learn how to read at the age of 6 or 7, and they stop seeing. We learn, and then we stop seeing. And that, I think, is a story I want to share with you today. When we started Havenly, I could shoot down any idea you came up with. Literally. I could think of like 13 million reasons not to start any company you came up with. You see, before I started Havenly, I was a management consultant, which is a fancy way of saying I was a skeptic with great PowerPoint skills. And I'd gone to a ton of fancy schools, and I had a lot of jobs that had shown me why new businesses can't succeed, why consumer businesses can't succeed, why a company like Havenly could never get off the ground. There was nothing defensible about it. How do you raise capital? What about the technology? Two-sided marketplaces are hard. I sat there, and I could poke holes in this idea for weeks, until my little sister, 6 years younger, and apparently unencumbered by my experience-driven skepticism, looked at me and said, 5 words that changed my life. Why don't we just try it? Her point was that this is a product that it seems like people want, that this experience kind of sucks for a lot of people. We could solve this problem. Why not try? And we did. We jumped in. And over the course of the next couple years, it was hard. And I met with a lot of extraordinarily smart, talented, and experienced people who really didn't like the idea. When we raised our seed round, I met with 140 investors, some of whom were in this room. Many of you said no. Thanks for that, by the way. And you know what? Frankly, it's still early days for us. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're right. But think about a company like Uber, the world's most valued startup, privately held startup. Many angel investors will tell you that they turned them down because what they were building wasn't technically defensible enough. In fact, Dave McClure stood here on this stage and said that with more F-bombs than I could even manage. Airbnb, if you look online right now, you can see all their rejection emails from a bunch of Silicon Valley VCs because a platform for sharing homes clearly couldn't be a big business. They were fucking wrong. And so I guess my words of advice for you today is at some point in your life you will have an idea. Maybe you're an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe you are one right now, maybe you just have an idea that you want to make heard, right? And you will share it with investors, advisors, friends, and all of those people, your investors, advisors, your friends, maybe even yourself, will find ways to shoot it down. They will, unless you're smarter or luckier than I am, which is possible. But I guess what I encourage you to remember, and I'm going to paraphrase the great philosopher Stephen Colbert, sometimes wisdom is just cynicism in disguise. Sometimes what actually wins is being able to see a solution to a problem that actually exists and get up and work on it. So that's one. For two, I'm going to enlist the help of this guy right here. Hopefully everyone knows who he is, although I realize I'm going to date myself with this story a little bit. So it may come as a surprise to you, but Shaquille O'Neal and I don't have a lot in common. He's like 8 feet tall. I'm barely breaking 5. He's had something like 11,000 career baskets. I've had 0. He is a lauded athlete and a celebrity in his own right, and I am none of those things. But I heard a story about Shaquille O'Neal just a few months ago that I wanted to share with you. So this was the year 2000. This was the year that Shaq had won, I think he was finals and MVP. He was the all-star MVP and the league MVP. It was kind of his winningest year as an individual athlete. And a team of consultants went to his house to work on a shoe licensing deal. And they walk in, and it was a relatively ostentatious house. This guy is not necessarily known for being humble. They walk in, and they realize there are no trophies displayed in the year 2000, at the end of that season. No trophies displayed. And so they asked, where are your trophies? Do you have them in a trophy room somewhere, some crazy display that we could take a look at? And he said, nah, that was yesterday. I'm looking at tomorrow. And I love this story. I really do. I love this story because so often we talk about moving on from failure, but in truth, both failures and successes are the same thing. They can function as excuses to rest in the past. And that's a bummer because a success is just an indicator that tomorrow you can do better. And so if you're going to remember anything from today and from my 5 minutes up here, it would be this. That people that actually fucking crush it wake up every morning, regardless of whether or not they're coming off of a win or a loss. And they keep going, and they keep trying. So I encourage you guys, everyone here, myself included, tomorrow morning to wake up and dream bigger, do more. Get off the fucking couch, go to a session, see a lot of people, meet a lot of people. This week is meant to be about that. And on that note, Twitter handles, Havenly tweets more than I do. I really hope I get to see you all around for the rest of the week. I hope you enjoy this week. It's a tremendous opportunity for so many of us. And have a good day.
I think Lee epitomizes exactly the type of entrepreneur that we're both building and bringing to Denver. So thank you. Another round of applause for Lee. And some good advice. And for those of you that have been to the Kickoff breakfast in the past, you know that she didn't exceed the number of F-bombs that have, previously been thrown out on this stage. So, how many remember that one? Yes, there we go. We'll just leave it at that. Our next speaker, Chris Tyrell, is the CEO of Home Advisor. He's 1,200 employees and growing, moving their company to Center City, Denver, their headquarters. And Chris comes to us with a lot of great experience with great brands like Nutrisystems and Match.com. And all of that helps build and grow a company like Home Advisor, which is connecting people to services for their home, which we all need, right? So as we hear from Chris today, one of the things that he shared with me earlier is that when he thinks about people founding companies and making it happen, the one thing that he had to say is that it's really hard, and he has absolutely incredible respect for the founders of these startups. So with that said, let's hear from Chris. Chris?
Can you guys hear me all right? Whoa. I'm the only one without a lavalier, so stick with me here. I will assume you guys are all going to find your points of inspiration over the next week or so. I'm not going to get up here and tell you about what it takes to become inspired. You'll find your way. I'm going to go a little bit deeper. I'm kind of a pragmatist at heart. What do you do once you're CEO of a company or you're founder of a startup? Like what things can you rely on to make sure you succeed? I was told I only have 5 minutes. There's a big clock staring at me here. So I put together my 5-minute science of success formula that I hope you will find instructive. This is my overpromise. In 5 minutes, you will know how to run a business perfectly, whether you're large or small. So we'll see at the end if I succeed. So who am I? Why should you care what I have to say? This is my sort of what I'll call my biomatrix graph. You can see on the y-axis here that these are things I think I've learned. As I get older and older, I realize I don't know as much as I thought I knew when I was much younger. So this is what I think I've learned. At the bottom right, fancy titles, things I've done along the way. Match.com, I was my own sort of entrepreneur working for Match, built chemistry.com. All the way up to Home Advisor. I can tell you along the way that I have learned things like when someone says a market is too small and has stopped growing, don't listen to them. At Match in 2003, I think they said that dating space was done, never going to grow again. Obviously very wrong. I can tell you if you think you're too big and bad to fail, you're wrong. I was at Blockbuster. We struggled mightily, learned a lot. And all the way up to Home Advisor where that was a company that had lots of potential but needed us to really think about what are sort of the key things we can do to take a really great asset and grow it. So this is maybe why you should trust me. This is my shameless plug. For those of you who don't know about Home Advisor, we are the world's largest marketplace for home services. We are also the largest consumer-facing internet brand in Colorado. When I joined in 2011, we were actually Service Magic, looked at the business, decided that we needed to be more consumer-facing, changed the brand, changed our service provider experience, changed our homeowner experience, completely changed the entire organization, and we went from being what at the time was a sub $200 million business to we'll do about $500 million in revenue this year. I think in the next 3 years or so, if we stay on this run rate, we'll be at about $1 billion in revenue. And here's something interesting for everyone in Startup Week land: we are profitable. I know it's a weird thing, but we are profitable, very profitable. Few stats, I'm not going to read all of them, but to give you some sense of our scale and size, we do have about 10 million uniques visiting us each month. We'll do about 15 million service requests, and I think the most interesting thing, in any given year, we'll do about 40 billion in project value flowing through our platform. So we are a large-scale business, but I still think of us as a bit of a startup in terms of our mentality, how we operate, etc. So that's my shameless plug for Home Advisor. For sure, everything you hear today is 100% scientifically unproven. It is simply what I think I've learned, and it is based off my own experiences, so don't hold me to it. Bear with me here. So this is my 5-minute science of success formula. I think these things are really important. If you think about people, money, and the choices you made or make, whether you're big or small, I think you will be able to do sort of the basic things to lay a foundation for a really good business and a good environment. First, people. Replace toxicity with snap factor. And what do I mean by this? Root out toxicity at all costs. It will destroy your organization. You will meet people who are really smart, have fancy degrees, maybe have great subject matter expertise, but they're toxic and they can't help themselves. And they will make your organization a mess. And they will bring in behaviors that will pull you down. I don't care if you have 20 people working for you or 2,000 in our case. If you're going to be the leader of an organization, root out toxicity. Get rid of it. These people will hurt you more than they will help you. So whatever you do, root it out. But replace it with snap factor. And I'm going to have to do my finger. Snap factor People who get it. You'll meet people like that. They may not have the most amazing looking resume. They may have gone, sort of an interesting path through life. But there are people that are really sharp, really smart. You can put them in a room, give them a situation, and they can get it. They can sort of assess what's going on. They may not have the subject matter expertise, but they can learn that over time. Look for these people. These people are invaluable. Business is moving too quickly today, particularly in the internet space. You need really smart, high snap factor people. I can think of people in our organization who started out in sales and in customer care who are now running internal multi-million-dollar sort of sub P&Ls who just had high snap factor. And so we look for this all the time. It takes time. You have to go out and really spend some time with somebody, really listen to what they're saying, but look for high snap factor. Trust me, it is a hidden asset that can help your organization. Second, no money babies. And I'll tell you how to take a money baby and replace it with using mental judo. Don't be a money baby. Money babies are people who take money and then whine about it. Whine because someone gave them money and now I have to talk to them and I have to listen to their ideas and I don't want to do that. If you're in business and you take money from somebody, they want something from you, right? Even as the CEO, I have to worry about, my corporate parent. They want something from me. They want me to perform. They want me to listen to their ideas. Don't be a money baby. And by the way, if you're in business, unless you're a nonprofit, you're there to generate revenue. You're there to generate EBITDA. Money matters. So don't, pretend like this doesn't exist. Embrace it. And what I mean by that is use mental judo. Trust me, you're going to have people that want to take their terrible ideas and make you listen to it. And you have a couple of choices. Choice A is to fight them. And the more you fight them, the more they're going to push on you. And then the more they're going to drag you down with time, effort, and energy. And if you don't do it, you should have done it. And if you do it, and it doesn't work, it's your fault. So instead, use their momentum against them. Listen to what they're saying and go, okay, great. Let me take your idea, let me sketch it out a little bit, let me look at the ramifications and then present it back to them. And say, well, yeah, we could do that. And you know what, if we do that, we can't do these other things. And the odds of success of what you're suggesting are low, but we can stop everything and do it. And it's amazing what happens. Suddenly it's, no. Don't, just keep doing what you're going to do. Use their momentum against them. You will save you time, effort, energy. You'll help the organization. You will get more out of life and feel better by being calm and patient because you are taking money from somebody and you are on the hook for generating revenue. So listen to others' ideas, use data, and use their own momentum to sort of help buy some time for you and do the things you really want to focus on. Next thing, replace to do with to don't. I can't tell you how many people I talk to, and they talk about everything they need to do, right? These are all the things we need to do. Our competition's doing it. Best of breed is doing it. Don't worry about your to-do list. Your to-do list will drag you down. It will get long and be never ending. Instead, what you need to really think about is your to-don't list. Take everything you think you need to do and put it on your to-don't list because in the end, you can only do a few things really, really well. And so you should sit down and spend the time, effort, and energy and make sure you know what are those 3 or 4 key things you should be doing and put everything else on the to-don't list. As a leader of the organization, you can only do a few things and you need to be able to take those few things and socialize them and share them so that when someone else in the organization hears what's being proposed, they go, yeah, that makes sense. I get it. I can get on board. And your whole organization can get on board. But if you have an unending list of things to do, there's likely you won't achieve them all, likely you'll do most of them half-assed, and likely you'll waste a lot of time and effort and energy while other people are surpassing you. So think about how long your to-don't list should be and make sure your to-do list is very small, very focused, and is going to really drive your business. So these are my few things. They're what I've learned is a distillation of my 20 years in life. Do not hold me accountable for them. They're not going to change, your world, and help you make every decision. But hopefully, there'll be a foundation to where you can start to build the real nucleus of a good organization, whether you're big or small. Good luck with all your startups. I have tremendous admiration and respect for anyone who starts a business. It's really, really hard to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, very much. Great work. That was awesome. Thank you. Are we inspired yet? I mean, are we inspired yet? I mean, my gosh. Gusto, Havenly, and last, Home Advisor. We're off to a really, really great start. Our next speaker is Ryan Wood. I could not be more excited to introduce Ryan, as Ryan is the founder of a company that we probably all know and love. First, he played fullback for the Dallas Cowboys and went on to co-found that company, Under Armour, and it's now one of the most well-recognized sports brands in the world. Just this week, they announced that they're going to be attacking a $15 billion new opportunity. They don't talk in millions, they talk in massive billions, and I think they power our entire defensive line for the Denver Broncos, so we've got to give a huge round of applause for our Super Bowl champions at 50. Does anyone want to win a Super Bowl again? My gosh. Today he runs Sweetwood Cattle Company in Steamboat Springs, and his next entrepreneurial venture is to promote American agriculture and the Western way of life. And let me tell you, he makes a pretty stellar steak, and be sure to check out their awesome beef jerky as well. Please join me in welcoming Ryan Wood as our Denver Startup Week keynote speaker.
I'm
Ryan,
gon' get
welcome
it
to
and
the
we
stage.
gon' get it and you gon' feel it and you gon' get it. I'm gon' get it and we gon' get it and you gon' get it and you gon' feel it. I'm gon'
All right.
get it and we
Is this working okay? All right, Chris took us to the deep end. I'm going to take you back to the shallow end here real quick. So this is the biggest group of entrepreneurs in the country. Maybe this can be the biggest huddle. So let's everybody stand up real quick. Let's get some blood back in the legs. Come on, let's go. Let's do something kind of fun here. Who's seen the very first Under Armour commercial that was on television about 10 years ago? Protect this house. Hands up. Hands up, we've seen it. All right, so when I say, will you protect this house, I need you to say, I will. Will you protect this house? I will. Will you protect this house? I will. And when I say Under Armour, you say win. Under Armour. Win. Under Armour. Win. Will you protect this house? I will. Will you protect this house? I will. Under Armour. Win. All right, that's it. Have a seat. So that's what it's like working at Under Armour in a nutshell. You come to work, break it down. Before I get started, I would just like to just make mention. I know yesterday was September 11th. On a weekend, I know I was with my family doing a whole bunch of stuff, and days like that kind of go by, and it's really easy to kind of have a day like that go by and not really think and spend some time to think about the weight of that day. But I know for myself personally, September 11th, I was on a business trip for Under Armour, flew out of Baltimore, Maryland that morning at 7:30 in the morning, flew to Pittsburgh to catch a connection to Birmingham, Alabama. And by the time my flight had taken off out of Pittsburgh, we were rediverted 3 times in flight, landed in Greenville, South Carolina. And 12 hours later, after I was able to get a rental car and grab a couple other people that were on my flight, we were able to make it back to Baltimore safely at about 1 in the morning on September 12th. So I know for me, that day will always be something that lives with me and will be a really vivid memory of my time with Under Armour, and as well of just the memories of the great men and women, that serve our country, first responders. I just have a ton of respect for those people, and I think it's really important with a group of people like the ones in this room today. We are so lucky to do what we do. We are so incredibly lucky to have the opportunity to live in a free country, to be able to create and inspire and just do amazing things in the United States of America, and that doesn't come free. And you see a lot of things in the world today that are disappointing when it comes to people, and our country. But I love this country. I lived for a few years outside the United States for Under Armour. I headed up our efforts over in Europe, opened up a few offices, abroad And I tell you what, the best thing about living abroad was coming home. And I absolutely love, living in this country and being a part of the, a great community like this today. So I want to just make mention of that. And any of you in the room, ex-military, veterans, first responders, etc., thank you. So, clicker here. So Under Armour's models have gotten a lot better looking in the last 10 or 15 years, I can promise you that. This is myself, Kevin Plank, and Kip Folks, the three founders of Under Armour, great friends of mine, my brothers. Kevin founded the company back in 1996 when he was finishing up at the University of Maryland. Kip was an All-American lacrosse player at Maryland. And I played football at Youngstown State, Arizona State, and ended up getting a cup of coffee with the Dallas Cowboys after I got done playing in college. But we were the three leaders of the company: offense, defense, special teams. We ran the company like a football team. Myself on the front end, Kip on the back, and Kevin, special teams and kind of playing on both sides. But that was our vocabulary. That's how we ran the company, and that's what we knew. I played on state championship teams here in Colorado. I'm a native of Colorado. I grew up in northern Colorado. Played at Loveland High School and Fairview High School. Won a state championship at Fairview. Won a national championship at Youngstown State. Went to Arizona State and was drafted by the Cowboys the year that they won the Super Bowl against Pittsburgh. So I've been around some great, amazing teams. I've been really fortunate in my life to do that. But I tell you, these two guys and the team that we built in Baltimore, Maryland, and all over the world now was something like I've never seen before. Just an incredible group of talent, chemistry, drive, and just a wonderful group of people that we were able to build there and continues today. Kevin likes to tell the story. So I mentioned I played for the Cowboys. I'm representing today, though, right? People ask me why do you wear a Broncos shirt, and I tell them, I got drafted by the Cowboys, but I never got cut by the Broncos. So, hey man, it's all good. That's my squad. So Kevin likes to tell the story about my time in Dallas as well, and he sent a box of samples down there when he was starting the company. He wanted me to hand some out to Troy Aikman and Deion Sanders and Emmett and those guys. Hey Woody, man, get this shirt, get the shirts on the guys, see what kind of feedback you can get. And unfortunately, he sent it UPS ground, and by the time it got down there, they had cut me. So Kevin always regrets not, sending it overnight FedEx. So, it's the way it goes. Sometimes it's worth spending a little extra money on that stuff. But my initial work with Kevin was just that. I was kind of figuring out my life. I was a pro football player for a little while. I went back. I was getting my master's. I was coaching, and Kevin asked me, to help, help him get this idea off the ground. Help him get this company off the ground. This idea that he had for a product that was going to revolutionize sport, and it was a pretty simple philosophy at the time. We were all wearing, 5-pocket girdles underneath our pants and our uniforms that were made out of like a synthetic lightweight material that you put your thigh pads in, your hip pads in. But our shirts at the time were 100% cotton t-shirts or 50-50 cotton t-shirts, extremely heavy. They would hold a ton of moisture. I played in Arizona. We'd go out and practice. It'd be 120 degrees outside. You'd be soaking wet by the time you got halfway down the field. And you'd be carrying around what essentially was 3 pounds of extra water weight the entire practice. So 3 hours under that kind of heat and that kind of duress, it was a difference maker. It was a big deal. So Kevin came up with the idea of simply coming up with a lighter weight, synthetic, tight-fitting fabric to make a t-shirt out of. And at the time, it seemed, kind of out there. You'd put it on some of these guys in the locker room, and these big, offensive and defensive linemen would put it on, and they'd try to squeeze into it and get their head in there and stuff. And, they'd keep telling you that they felt like a sausage. But they'd go out there, and they'd practice and play, and they'd come back in and say, man, that was awesome. That made a big difference. That shirt didn't hold moisture. It didn't hold, the weight of the moisture. My straps didn't pull the shirt back and forth over my skin. I didn't get that same heat rash that I used to get. And we really started to get a lot of buy-in from the athletes. You know, we were kind of crossing over. It wasn't just a shirt. It was now a necessary piece of equipment. And that was really how we kind of made our way into sport. If we were just going head-to-head with Nike at the time, Nike had their dry fit out. They'd come out with it a year or two before us. But they were kind of marketing it to, you know, smaller groups of sports, cyclists, mountaineers, you know, trail runners, or, you know, long-distance runners, et cetera. We kind of took those concepts and took it to a broader audience. Team sports was what we knew. It was our background, and we really saw the benefit there of what these types of fabrics and this fit in particular could make for sport. So similar to you know the 70s, where you know football players back then, they didn't work out in the off season. You know, back in the 70s, the Cowboys were one of the first teams that started to keep the guys there year round, lift weights, run, get stronger, bigger, faster in the off season so that they were ready and had an advantage during the season. In the 80s, nutrition, you started to see creatine, a lot of supplements start to enter, you know, sport and enhance athletic performance. Under Armour was that first brand in team sports that kind of helped athletes cross over and start thinking about base layer and what they were wearing on their bodies as a piece of equipment or something that could give them an advantage in the game. So this was the start of Under Armour, and things have, you know, obviously changed. The logo's been cleaned up a little bit. You know, the product line has grown dramatically. This is our Heat Gear t-shirt, which was the very first product and kind of the core of the line. That eventually migrated and evolved into our Turf Gear line, our all-season line, our Cold Gear line, and we were able to start outfitting and selling products into every season for a football season. We, at the time, were just a football company. We even had coaches start coming to us and saying, hey, man, I love your stuff. I'd love to wear it, but I don't look like that guy there in the picture standing up. So maybe you can come out with something a little looser to cover up the baggage. So we, you know, eventually moved out of compression and started to build some more lifestyle products, you know, for coaches and for people, spectators, and people that were on the sidelines and watching the game. So from the evolution of the line, we also started to expand. You know, you've had a lot of people up here talk about, you know, markets. You know, football was our market. It's what we knew. It was, you know, it was our you know, main target initially. But through football, you know, we were able to get access. You know, a lot of these football players in high school and college, they also played baseball, they played lacrosse, they played basketball. So they started to use these products in other sports and in other, you know, parts of their life. And that's what really helped, you know, just this one product start to branch out into all different kinds of sports, all different kinds of activities. It wasn't age specific. It could go down to kids as, you know, young as 4 or 5 years old, and it can go up to, you know, their grandparents, you know, cycling or ride a bike or walking on a treadmill. So this idea of revolutionizing the cotton t-shirt was something that just took off like wildfire. You know, eventually, you know, colleges and the NFL and Major League Baseball, those are all kind of our main targets. We went after, you know, those guys with great intensity. We had a lot of contacts from when we played. And, you know, unlike today's environment, these were hard yards. You know, we weren't just putting up a website and putting some t-shirts up there and selling, you know, tens of millions of dollars of product overnight. We were getting in the car, driving to, you know, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, doing an SEC trip for 2 weeks. We'd go to California for 2 or 3 weeks. We'd come out here and hit schools and talk to players, coaches, equipment managers, anyone and everyone that we could possibly talk to about this product. We were there in front of them, and we lived on the road. I mean, it was years and years and years of that. We had a website. We sold direct, you know, we sold direct to, you know, consumers, but there was a lot of years of that face-to-face communication, and these equipment managers were really kind of our lead in to, you know, getting this product on the backs of athletes. You know, Nike and Adidas and Reebok had a lot of these big deals with schools at the time. As you can see, these deals get larger and larger and larger today. we were going in and talking to the equipment managers who had a budget of a couple $100,000, and they were able to, bring us into these locker rooms and give us our start, and that had a huge impact on our distribution, which at the time wasn't really a strategy, but ultimately became our strategy. So after several years, we had 100 or more college teams wearing the product, half the NFL, half Major League Baseball. We were making inroads into the National Hockey League, Canada, the high school levels, et cetera. And we were able to build a network of guys on the ground, reps and dealers that sold our product into the marketplace, got our product on the backs of a lot of the influential athletes and teams all over the country, not just in Baltimore, the East Coast, but all over, which eventually led to opportunities in big box mall, department stores, et cetera. It was really just an exciting, incredibly fast time for us to keep up with that kind of growth. I was a front end guy, and I was out there always, selling the product, but, our people on the back end never really got enough credit, and they still probably don't, for the magic that they created by keeping up with our brand. And we went from, just a product to a brand almost overnight. I don't know, I'm sure there's definitions of, when a company makes that jump. But Under Armour became like a virus, and you started to see it everywhere. You started to see the long, tight T-shirts, on field and on television in the games, et cetera. And our sourcing folks and manufacturing and back end shipping, et cetera, operations. I mean, it's incredible what they were able to support. Kevin Plank, if any of you have ever met him, is an incredible leader, an amazing driving force behind Under Armour, and we charge hard. The fact that we were able to keep up with that growth was just tremendous. But this slide here, is kind of the meat and potatoes of Under Armour. We're always about the athlete, always authentic. Under Armour never went out and bought athletes early on. We didn't go out and sign a big marquee name to wear our product, or a celebrity and such. We would get it on the backs. Now, these guys are getting paid a lot more money today, but initially, these athletes saw the benefits of our product in their particular sports and wanted to be a part of the family, wanted to be a part of the community on field. And this was really, people ask me all the time, what was the difference maker? When was that moment? Your marketing is so great. When did you guys cross over? And I don't think Under Armour ever did, and I don't think Under Armour ever will. I think it's just a constant story of being authentic, on field, real product, from footwear to apparel, and now equipment as well, that athletes believe in, and absolutely, believe that it gives them an advantage on the field. We had a lot of opportunities early on with a few, movies, Any Given Sunday, the replacements, et cetera. We do a lot of print advertising, but the on-field piece, and then television was a real driver for us, starting about 15 years ago, when sports news really made a jump. ESPN, Fox News, a lot of those, types of stations. These athletes weren't just wearing it, in competition. They were wearing Under Armour before games, after games, when they were, hanging out with their buddies, and, more and more cameras were coming in and starting to, film their lives and interview them off the field. And years ago, there was really no structure around that. Now the leagues have a ton of structure around it. They can't wear, a non-licensed branded product 2 hours before the game, 2 hours after the game. They're very, very specific about those things now. We were able to kind of attack those opportunities early on, and that's something, obviously, for the entrepreneurs in the room, you've got to be creative. You got to be different. You need to figure out a way to differentiate yourselves and your strategy from, larger competitors. So, from our roots, it's impossible for me to sit here and give you guys the whole Under Armour story. It'd take days, to be honest with you. But, the beginning, obviously the athlete component. This is just a great picture that I always love to show, and was, as a young company or an entrepreneur, I think it's important to have dreams and to have a vision of what you want to be. For Under Armour, this was a big goal of ours. We wanted to be a big brand, big company, go public. Define your success. This doesn't have to be success for every brand. I'll talk to you a little bit about, a new venture of mine, but, quite frankly, I don't think Sweetwood's ever going to be on the steps of Wall Street, and that's okay. But for Under Armour, this was a tremendous moment for us. Again, it was the culmination of years and years of tremendous effort, from our team. We were, $20,000 or $30,000 in sales when Kevin was just getting the company started when I joined. We ended up doing about $1 million in our second year. We ended up going from $1 million to $5 million, $20 million, $50 million, 100 to 220 to 400, and then we went public back in 2005. And for a non-tech company selling a real, physical product, that is a tremendous, amount of growth to keep up with. From all angles and just all sides of the business. Just the effort, the partners, the people. I can't say enough about how proud I am. And one of the reasons why I'm here today is not for Ryan Wood. I've got an obligation to tell you about the special, special people in Baltimore, Maryland, and around the world that work for Under Armour, that helped Under Armour take those steps early on and continue to do just great work today. I was back there this year for, the 20-year anniversary. It's just it's a super, super exciting, brand to be a part of. I backed away about 7 years ago from the day to day. I grew up in Colorado, as mentioned before. I'm a native of Colorado. I left Under Armour. They're clearly doing just fine without me. They're, about a $4 billion company last year in sales, taking great, strides in their international plays, retail, connected fitness and such. And I'm just super excited for them. And just to be a part of that story and a part of that experience, is something for me that I'll never forget. And it'll always be a part of my life. But as mentioned, 10 or 11 years at Under Armour. I spent, 8 years there in Baltimore. I spent my last couple years in Europe. I, traveled all over the world, went to every, Super Bowl, All-Star game, World Series, you name it. Pretty awesome life. I'm one of the luckiest guys I know, right? But, coming back to Colorado or being from Colorado, it's kind of a curse, It's such an amazing place. You grow up here in the hills. I'm a big skier, hunter, fisherman. I fly, I love the mountains. I love, the Western, United States, and it's in my blood. And it's something that I wanted to come back to, and raise a family, and potentially someday, start something on my own here in Colorado. And that's what we've been able to do. Some people call it from, sweat to steaks, or, however you want to describe it. But, I moved back to Steamboat Springs. I lived in Steamboat for about 5 years after I moved back. And, when I got back, I took about a year off, basically being a part of 2 startups essentially at Under Armour from the time we started up in Baltimore and then going overseas and starting up, operations internationally was a huge endeavor for me. And it was a tremendous experience. But Steamboat for me seemed like a great landing spot to chill out for a while, do some skiing, fly fishing and such. And it was awesome. I mean, I had a time to reflect on all those great experiences. But, being an entrepreneur and being in an environment like that for over a decade of your life, from the time I was essentially 25 to 35 years old, it leaves a footprint, right on your chest, right? I mean, it's something that never leaves you. And after about a year in Steamboat of, kind of goofing around, I had the juices going again and was getting really excited about, starting something new. And that something new ended up being Sweetwood Cattle Company. Sweetwood is a really fun, interesting brand that I'm really excited to be a part of. I guess this is my, kind of selfish moment here on stage just to tell you guys a little bit about what we do. But eat beef is what I can tell you about Sweetwood. All right? We love our steaks. We love our jerky. We love our fatties and our bullies, and being bold and not afraid, to tell people that we're really excited about American beef and American agriculture. This is a brand that kind of speaks to that Western, Americana feel, from our packaging. Everything about our brand, tastes like the West, and it's something that we're really, really proud of. Our distribution is growing constantly. Natural food grocers, Lucky's Market, Sprouts, etc. We're in some really cool retailers down here in Denver, Cook's, Marzik's, Tony's Market, et cetera. Outdoor retail is a place that we're really starting to, focus a lot of time. We were one of the first meat products that REI brought on board about 2 years ago. We're in all the REI stores. But we're really excited about where food is going. I don't know how many food startups are in this room, but it's a really interesting, exciting category of business. Constantly changing. The channels are changing, all the time. Non-traditional retail opportunities from hardware stores, farm and ranch stores, outfitters, hunting and fishing lodges, boutique hotels, airlines and airports. There's endless points of sale when it comes to products like this, and we're really, really excited about, kind of those next opportunities for Sweetwood. So Under Armour and Sweetwood aside, when Eric gave me a call and said, hey man, can you come down and chat with some of the entrepreneurs in Denver that are thinking about, starting their own business. And I don't do a lot of these, but to be honest with you, it kind of struck a chord with me, and I was really excited to come down here and just spend a little bit of time, with this community, because I think it's a really special group. Startups are all I've ever known. From Under Armour to Sweetwood, I thought back to, even when, if any of you played sports, I'm sure a lot of you played on sports teams. Every year's a startup, right? New team, maybe new coaches, new position, new competition. Every year's a startup, and you kind of start from the ground up, and it's something that, I'm just really familiar with and I'm passionate about as well. But when I think about startups and, try not to sound too cliche up here, and there were some great speakers up here that had some great wisdom and just ideas and experiences to share with you, and quite frankly mine aren't really that much different. Any startup, I think, passion has got to be near the top of the list. You've got to love what you do, and you've got to be that kind of light for your company that is constantly thinking about ways to improve, how you're moving, what you're doing. Passion is just so important. Leadership, not just leading, walking into a room and, blah, 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 and then walking out and expecting people to listen to what you said and do what you do. Lead from behind, man. I mean, get behind your people. That was the great thing at Under Armour. I mean, those early days, I heat press shirts till 3 a.m. Kevin and I sat there and laid 250 ply of fabric so that our cutter could come in at 5 o'clock the next morning and cut that line for that day. We packed boxes. We ran stuff to the airport. We did accounting. We took out trash. So you guys are going to experience all these things, I promise you. But this is the good stuff, right? But be a leader by example, okay? Compete every day in every possible way that you can, and set a tone in your organization of competitiveness with each other. Whether there's a million functions of any company, but compete, in any possible way that you can. Build a great team. You heard it up here from the folks that were here. Find some good partners. Find some good people to put around you. At Under Armour, we recruited from our teams and guys that we played with. Kevin and I, Eddie was talking a little bit about this when he bumped into his buddy at the marathon. But, Kevin and I played at Fork Union Military Academy in Virginia, all boys school in between high school and college. We were a part of about 16 linebackers that were all about 5'11", about an inch too short, and 200 pounds, about 20 pounds too small to play at a big school. But we became really, really close, fast friends. And when Kevin was thinking about starting Under Armour, he sent me a postcard that I have in my office today from Pamplona, Spain, and said, hey, Woody, I'm in Spain. I'm sleeping on a beach. I'm coming home in a couple weeks. I've got an idea for a company. I want you to come join me. Think about those people in your life. You may not have talked to them in years. They might have been a friend from middle school or high school or college or a job that you had. But think about those people that you connect with, that you trust, that you know will be loyal to you and you to them, because that is a really important, critical thing to any successful company. You've got to be a person of character. If you're going to be the leader of the organization, you have to be a good guy, okay? You don't have to be an angel or a good girl or a good woman, a strong individual. You don't have to be perfect, But if you're doing shady stuff outside of work hours, you're probably not going to be somebody that people are going to want to follow and trust. Be a good guy. And that lifestyle thing, I think it was, was Eddie again possibly that was talking about, being an entrepreneur and living in a startup. It is a lifestyle. Clocking in and clocking out, I don't even know what that is, right? I mean, you're thinking about it all the time, during the day, during the night. We accomplish more things at Under Armour outside of regular work hours than we did in work hours. I can promise you that. It's a lifestyle. Have fun and embrace it. Talked about telling a story. You've got to be able to tell a story about your company, your products. Be independent. Be a risk taker, okay? Don't be afraid to take shots, okay, as an entrepreneur, and be different, okay? That culture thing, you got to be able to embrace it, be a part of creating it, and drive that culture for your company. Learn, constantly be learning. I have a friend that's in the room today. His name is Santiago Velez from Soccer Sidekick. Young guy, reminds me a lot of myself when I was, 24, 25 years old, but I'm super proud of this guy. I connected with him about 6 months ago, and he's really, really intent on learning as much as he can about his industry, his product, his market, things he can do to accelerate their growth. And I think that's really something that's super, super important when it comes to building a company. So this was intentional, by the way. So this is my little entrepreneur. This is my 4-year-old, and I know of all my 3 kids, Kellen is going to be probably my entrepreneur, because this guy just does everything different, right? He's an original, all right? He is authentic, he is unique, and you can't tell him how to do things. We showed him how to go to the bathroom, I don't know how many times, but this is how he rolls, okay? And when I think about entrepreneurs, this is what I think about, right? You talk different, you walk different, you think different, and that's cool. And just be you. Don't let anyone tell you anything different. That dude right there is going to be something special. So last thing, when I think about, the experience, right? Just the overall experience of being an entrepreneur and being in a startup. Again, I mean, the idea kind of came when Eric called me. He's like, hey, man, we'd love to have you come down and share some stories. I was out, riding some motorbikes with my kids, and I was watching. It was my son, Kellen. And, you watch how many people in the room have a motorcycle or remember the first time they were on a motorcycle, right? Similar if you're, just on a bike for the first time. But, on a motorcycle, I'm sitting there watching them, and Daddy, I want to do it. And he starts up that bike, and it starts up, and he's sitting there, and his eyes get this big, and it's kind of like that oh shit moment, right? It's like, now what do I do? And I remember those times, those early days at Under Armour, early days at Sweetwood and other companies that I help with and share time with. As an entrepreneur and being in a startup. That initial kind of period, there's going to be a lot of doubt. There's going to be a lot of people telling you, you can't do it. Someone else already did it. You're crazy. That's stupid. You're going to hear everything like that, okay? You've got to be strong, and you've got to have the will to look through that. And, just the whole bike analogy, I just, watched that whole thing in front of me with my son, and, he started it up. He put in a little throttle and started to go slow, and, he tipped a little bit and finally got kind of confident and excited, and then he'd hit a bump and he'd slow down again. You might run out of gas, right, and have to fill back up, and, we've all been there, right? When you're charging hard as an entrepreneur in a startup, you're going to hit the wall from time to time, right? But it's those people, that, Tammy mentioned it before, get up, fill up the tank, push it in the garage, get up early the next day and go roll. And those, you've got to have that mindset. So enjoy the ride. For those of you that are just starting down this road or starting down it again, like myself, it's just so fun for me, the transition from Under Armour to Sweetwood. It's a really, really exciting time to kind of jump back in on a smaller level and see all those things kind of happen again. But what a great, atmosphere and environment that, this team has created. It's really cool for me to be able to spend this time, in my home state and be a part of an area that's so vibrant, that has, so many, exciting ideas and industries and people, interested in investing in these categories of business. It's an exciting time, and I think everyone in the room feels that. And again, have a great week. I'm really honored to be here and be a part of it, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ryan. And
Well, we have some surprises, so if you're sliding out at the last minute, you might want to wait.
you may
I'm
want to
just
wait.
saying.
You may want to wait. Just saying. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you again. And may there be an Under Armour in the crowd today, and you know who you are. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. A very special thank you again to our planning committee, our speakers and sponsors. We could not do it without you. And a special thanks to our Denver Startup Week title sponsors, Chase for Business, Comcast, and the Downtown Denver Partnership. It's really important. Yes, huge round of applause. Most important thing you're going to hear today is make sure you register online. We're trying to break some records, and we cannot be the largest free entrepreneurial event in North America without your help. So please get your wristbands so we can track your attendance and secure our great sponsors in the future. And of course, we want to be sure to keep our spot, as the largest free event in the United States. So be sure to check online for schedule changes and confirm dates, and make sure your locations for your events. As these things grow, we may be moving things around, so stay tuned.
Okay, so head over to Base Camp. We have these great Startup Week shirts. We're selling them for the first time this year. So swing by, you can get those at Base Camp, 1515 Arapahoe. We are going to throw a few of those out here right now. But listen, be very careful when you make the dive for this t-shirt, because inside, our generous Southwest airline sponsor, cheers for Southwest, one of the greatest startups of all time. Southwest loves startups. In each of these is a $100 gift certificate for a ticket on Southwest Airlines. So they're going to come from all over. It's kind of like a wedding where you're catching the bouquet. Just be careful. Ready? Go.
Sorry.
All right. All right, so who caught some money? Raise your hand. We're not done yet. We have placed under 70 seats in the room $100 gift certificates for a Southwest Airlines flight, compliments to Southwest. If your table mates left, take theirs.
Let's wrap this up.
Okay, if you got one, let's see your hand if you got a gift certificate. Here we go. You have a really special job. Your job is to travel to other cities, tell the story of startups, bring back some highly qualified software engineers, and some money for our startups here. And I'm going to turn it to Ben to close us out.
This week, your challenge is also to collaborate, communicate, and convene. Make sure you get out there and reach new people. Go out there and network, and make sure you follow up. Share your experience with #DenStartupWeek, and also always remember, give before you get. Pay it forward. Most of all, have fun.
Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great
Enjoy.
week, everyone. We'll see you.